Hello and welcome to Movie Buff's Quick Pump, a mini show where I hold court in the street and break down the best action movies of all time. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. Today, I'm reviewing the 2005 film Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
John and Jane Smith are like most couples, but they each are hiding something the other would kill to know.
She's not your wife.
She's the enemy.
You have an unusual problem, Jane. You obviously want me dead, and I'm less concerned for your well-being. So what do?
Brad Pitt,
Sweetheart.
Angelina Jolie,
You still alive, baby?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
If you haven't seen it, it's about two assassins who fell in love in the field, but now find themselves in a stale marriage. When they discover that they are both guns for hire, their bosses order them to kill each other. To kick off this impossible mission, let me take you back to June 10th, 2005. It opened against Shark Boy and Lava Girl, the Taylor Lautner vehicle, and High Tension, and alongside Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, LOL, and Madagascar. It was a very random time at the box office. They made this movie for $110 million, and it grossed a total of $487 million worldwide. So pretty good. That brings me to my first segment called What's Your Crew?
If I do this, I'm going to want to take my own men.
In this segment, I analyze the filmmaking and evaluate the performances. This movie was written by Simon Kinberg and directed by Doug Liman and stars Angelina Jolie, Vince Vaughn, Kerry Washington, Adam Brody, and Brad Pitt. Doug Liman, as you may remember, also directed Swingers, Go, The Bourne Identity, Edge of Tomorrow, and The New Roadhouse. This guy definitely makes bangers, and I am here for them. And for like a love story action movie, this one is pretty great. He does a good job highlighting the dichotomy between their cover life and the action-packed lives they live as assassins. He's got smooth and simple camera work during those earlier scenes when they're acting normal, and then really edgier, quick handheld camera movements and editing to kind of reflect when they're in spy mode, which works for me. When it comes to the performances, obviously, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are great in this movie. We all know AJ always looks good with a gun in her hand, and BP looks good at all times, no matter what age, obviously. They're both giving off like great confidence. They look amazing. They have organic sexual chemistry. We all remember it was problematic at the time. And rewatching it, it's just undeniable. They're so into each other. It reminds me a lot of the Emma Stone, Andrew Garfield, Amazing Spider-Man when they were like dating IRL and totally falling in love before our eyes on screen. And then we, of course, have Tom Holland and Zendaya doing the same thing. So I guess a Spider-Man movie is like really where you go to fall in love. But it's just undeniable when you watch these two. They have such chemistry together. They're smirking at each other. It's insane. And considering everything that's happened in their relationship IRL, it's nice to just go back to like when it was still kind of fun and naughty and not like really sad and awkward and uncomfortable for all of us. However, I am Team Jen Ann forever and always. Always, always, always Jen Ann for life. But you cannot deny the chemistry that these two had. Like I mentioned, I don't love a fighting to fall in love story, but it does work here for me, obviously. I don't love that it works here for me, but I guess it's clever, handling something like this is not so easy. And they do a good job making it kind of evenly matched. If not, she's going harder than he is, which is always good. But there's like a couple shots where you're like, I don't know if we like needed that, but it's totally doable. We can live with it. I always forget Vince Vaughn is going to be here, but it makes sense with the Swingers Connect. He's playing that kind of grounded rom-com character that's like, I'm in this business too. I know you better, man. You shouldn't be with this woman. Like, it's too risky. But I guess since he's not doing his like patented Vince Vaughn, that's probably why I forget he's here. I've come to like know him as Old School and Wedding Crashers and all the stuff he did as the 2000s go on. But he was still like swinger style in the 90s and like early 2000s, like a serious actor. I particularly love the shot for shot remake of Psycho, but I'm probably the only one. Kerry Washington is also here. She's one of Angelina Jolie's coworkers. She doesn't really get to do much. She's just kind of there. Same with Michelle Monaghan and a couple of other TV stars. Jennifer Morrison from House is here. The lawyer, Stephanie March, the DA from SVU is here. And the woman who plays Ari's wife on Entourage is also here. Like, it's kind of wild how many random people are in this cast, but it reminds, it's those early 2000s movies that always had casts that were really stacked because it wasn't so spread out yet. Keith David is here as the voice of her boss, which is really fun because you don't really ever get to see him. You just know it's him because of his voice. Little Adam Brody's here being used as the pawn, and he's so cute, just adorable, charming as ever, really in his heyday in these early 2000s. So it's a great cast. Everybody shows up and kind of does their assignments. That brings me to my next segment called 100% Pure Adrenaline.
I expect the best, and I give the best.
In this segment, I'll highlight the best stunts, best kills, and most memorable sequences in the movie. There are small and large scale sequences here, and they're all fun. From the small kind of wire work that AJ's doing in the beginning, balancing the chair to adjust the curtains, to the more extreme wire work of rappelling down the side of the building with her purse. Love that. But they definitely paid some expert stunt people here to execute those larger pieces. They're blowing up cars, houses, department stores, chases, all kinds of stuff happening. Like her office gets completely destroyed. They crash an elevator. They do a lot of little stunts here and there that kind of add up, and you don't necessarily like. I certainly didn't remember how much action was going to be here until I rewatched it. Not a lot of kills because this is like, more about the couple, but there's a few notable ones. AJ coolly snaps the neck of, I guess, an arms dealer in the open when we learn what she's doing. BP kills a whole bunch of dudes at the poker game so that we know what his job is. And there's like a zillion henchmen they have to kill when they're just trying to defend themselves. There's also a really funny moment when they're trying to escape together because they've come back together and they just like run over some henchman and it's like played for laughs. It's a really silly kill. So I like that. There are a lot of action set pieces in this movie and some classic rom-com pieces too. They have that sexy dance number in South America, which kills me and makes me think of like The Lost City recently did it, the OG Romancing the Stone. We get that evenly matched Taming of the Shrew stuff in the fight scene, which is good. And we get the Who's Gonna Say I Love You First when they're trying to figure out if they're actually in love with each other. We got the Friends, and we get that World Against Us moment. So everything that needs to be here is here in terms of the rom-com, but also the action. I think the sequences that really stand out to me, I love the initial challenge scene when they both kind of think the other might know the truth about them. There's tension at the dinner table. It's really fun. Again, we also get one of those scenes where the character tests the reflexes of the other, like we did in Crouching Tiger and Twilight. I like that he almost kills her with a bazooka in the desert. It's so fun. And then she set up a whole bunch of bombs that are like in a circle that all go off. It's a very cool set piece. And the car stuff is very good. They do a lot of crazy moves with these cars, including the minivan all over the road. And it's just shot really well, like captures these cars blowing up and flying across the highways. Very cool. They give us that burn it all down moment and totally destroy a department store that, wasn't a real store, but it looked good and it was a lot of fun using all the stuff in the department store. It's a great sequence. But I think the most memorable sequence for me is when they literally destroy the house trying to kill each other. It's, like I mentioned, pretty sexy, it's playful, and it pulls absolutely no punches. The house is destroyed by the time they're done with it. And then, of course, the bosses like try to blow them up in it because they realize they're not going to kill each other. But the guns, like just blowing through walls, everything. So, so good. It must have been really, really fun for them to film and a total nightmare for production. I cannot imagine. That brings me to my final segment, dropping the hammer.
You can't handle the truth.
Here's where I'll rate the film out of, for this one, I'll do 5 salt shakers. This movie is, like I said, a lot of fun. I liked it then. I liked it now. The action is thrilling and clever. I think I'm going to give this one a 4. It's just a lot of fun. They're so good together. It's really hard. It's really hard not to enjoy this movie. I know it's not perfect, and I'm sure there are some things I could have, picked at a little bit further, but I just like so much of what's going on in this movie. I mean, it starts with a couple in couples therapy, so I love that. Got a shout out to my day job here. But if you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, it's totally worth going back and rewatching. So, so much fun. And it's easily available to you because it is now streaming on Hulu. So just do yourself a favor and get the rewatch in. I'm so glad I did. And I can't believe it's been 20 years. Wild, 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 wild. All right, that wraps it up for me. So you never miss a rep. Follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at We Stay Buff, and on Twitch at The Buffs. Bulk up and subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to leave a positive review. 5 stars is the dream. And of course, you can follow me personally on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. Thank you again for joining me for Movie Buff's Quick Pump and breaking down Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'll be back in 2 weeks covering Goodfellas. Very much looking forward to that. Until then, stay buff.